And hello, everyone. Welcome to the WARPburg Infusion Entertainment Review. My name is Thomas, aka Mr. Wartburg. Alongside me, as always, is Patrick, aka Mr. Fusion.
Greetings and salutations, everybody, on this post Super Bowl Wednesday that we're recording. Wednesday, yeah,
Yeah, it's somehow Wednesday, the 15th, day after
yeah.
Valentine's Day. I didn't get any cheap chocolate today. I kind of do regret that.
Now you got to get clearance. This is the day, man. Clearance chocolate,
Biggest
February
problem is,
15th.
though, the dollar store next to where I work closed because they suck. And they had some serious malfeasance with their own management, and there's a whole snafu, I guess, where they may not be a store anymore. Who
Wow. Well,
knows?
I know HEB's kind of doing people dirty in that they go and they hide the Valentine's Day candy because of course they already have out their Easter stock. The whole marketing, their whole aisles are full of
Yeah,
Easter stuff.
you
But
don't waste a beat.
no, you got to go. They usually stash it in some small stanchion in the very back of the grocery store now because they don't want you to raid their discounted chocolate. So, but yeah, but you can still find it if you know where to go.
I'm still
Always
digging through
Wal
Halloween stuff because that dollar store and I had 90% off Halloween candy. It
Wow,
was awesome.
Walgreens is a good place, man. They're a little slow in changing out their marketing. So yeah, you can always find it there. But yeah,
That's
it's a
good.
good day, man. You get some cheap chocolate,
Heck yeah.
cheap chocolate.
It's my kind of day. All right. So, here for episode 60, we're going to be talking about The Last of Us, episode 5, Endure and Survive. And then we're going to talk DC's The Flash trailer and Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 trailer. I'm more going to talk about the Flash one, though, because I have thoughts. Like surprising thoughts in terms of where I
Okay.
was at on the DCEU, and now I'm like, well, shit.
I think we're both gonna have
Like we're both in the
echoing a
same
lot of
spot
sentiments.
there
I think
because
so.
man, that was a good trailer.
Yeah.
So, Fusion, let's start as we always do with what we're watching and or playing.
Yep.
What are you up to? Because it's been 2 weeks.
It's been a couple weeks after that amazing episode 3 of Last of Us we really had to record on talk about.
Oh yeah.
So been dipping back into RPing and video games. I did that a little bit with Red Dead a couple years ago at the beginning of COVID. Jump back into it. There's a new server out there that I'm a part of and doing a little Wild West role playing on Red Dead, man. It's a beautiful game, so it eats up a lot of time and you can engage with people and you create your character. My guy is a weird kind of mysterious guy from New Mexico that makes his ways to the Commonwealth, and you think like as of right now with my story, you think he wants to work hard to make money, like with a clean day's work, but find out there's a little darker side to it. So yeah, I might be dipping into a little bit of the crime out in New Austin here very soon. So yeah, it's been fun doing that. And actually, man, I never watched. Well, I watched the first season very sporadically many moons ago of The Big Bang Theory, and then I immediately in '07 cut our cable cord and went cable free for since '07. Um, so I never really got into Big Bang Theory while it was like actually airing after that. So I decided to actually give it a chance, and I'm 10 seasons through. I'm in the 10th season in a week. The
Jesus.
21. Yeah, like just burning through that thing, man. I don't know if you watched it. Did you ever? Were you a Big Bang Theory guy?
It didn't land with me,
Okay,
but
okay.
my parents watched it all the time. They still watch the reruns now. It just never landed with me.
Which is funny, man, because with our wheelhouse of geekdom, you would think that it would be like something we would really be into, right? So it just was never destination TV for me, you know. Like I said, didn't have cable, so I didn't get even network TV. I was all streaming apps for so long. I just had never really got into it, you know. There was
That's why
just
you missed
why
Person of Interest.
That's why I miss person of interest. Yes, that's true. Um, the last few seasons of Fringe because of that, because I cut the cord, you know.
That season 4 was
Yeah.
so good.
Yep.
God, that was some great
The
stuff.
other the other one that I'm gonna have to sit down and go back and watch now is Mr. Robot because I caught the first season, but after that, I just because I had cut the cord, and never really got into it. So that's another one I want to get into is Mr. Robot. But I'm I'm into the 10th season. I will tell you, it's a really good show, man. It's good stuff, and I get why it was hugely popular. But like for geekdom, there's references galore for science. There's references galore. So I'm kind of shocked that like just a casual TV viewer really got into it. But I can also get it. The characters are very engaging and people like it. But yeah, I've been doing that, man. A lot of Big Bang Theory. I'm gonna wrap that up probably at the end of this week. By the end of this week. So
Jeez.
that's really 12 seasons in like a week and a half, man.
So for me, I started Thursday. I'm 30 hours into Horizon Forbidden West. So
Wait, I thought you were doing the very first Zero Dawn.
I beat that in a week. I New Game
Oh,
Plus 100% in a week. So
okay. All right.
between last recording, I did that, the whole first game, Horizon Zero Dawn. I filmed my review of episode 4. I put that up on my channel on YouTube for
Mhm.
The Last of Us episode 4. And then I started Horizon Forbidden West immediately. I was like, I'll save it for stream. Didn't wait for stream. Put in 20 hours before I started streaming the game. And I put in more last night. 3 hours plus 2 hours before and after. So I'm pushing 30 hours on this playthrough already. And I started
What do you think?
Thursday.
What are you thinking about? Is this your first playthrough of
Oh,
Forbidden
Forbidden
West?
West, it is my first playthrough. Of
Okay.
Zero Dawn, it was about probably my third time through.
Okay.
But it had just been years, so I wanted to play the first game to get a feel for the combat, the characters, get used to the world again. Because it's that first game, the lore that they do in that world, the world building they do.
Yeah.
I mean, it might be the best world built game I've ever played. Like, it is fucking dense but accessible and engaging. It's all in the game. You don't have to use ancillary stuff like with the FromSoft kind of stuff, or with
Yeah.
like Destiny with the Grimoire stuff. It's all in there in the game. You're still going to get this really rich emotional story without diving really into any of the codexes or anything. But if you do, it makes it even better. Second game is not quite there with the story in terms of
Okay.
tightness. It's got some
Okay.
awesome character beats. It's kind of suffers from that later Assassin's Creeds where there's just too goddamn much game going on, man. I
Yeah.
want the story here. I didn't come here for a collectathon. I came here for the story and these characters. And you're really pushing how far you can take the main character away from her supporting cast. The first game was a much tighter experience and more narrow focused. A lot of those games of that era were. God of War Ragnarok suffers from the same thing, where it got a little too big compared to the 2018 game, which really kept it more in the pocket, at least for my taste. And from what I've gathered on Reddit, seems to be a common consensus with Horizon. But I could have misread that, so I don't know for sure. But it's still, don't get me wrong, it's still a 9 out of 10. Horizon Zero Dawn was like a 9.5 out of 10, though. Like, that game fucking kicked ass. It just happened to come out right before Breath of the Wild. So
Yeah.
nobody gave a shit.
And God of
No,
War.
it was
the first
a year before God of War.
year before God of War. Yeah.
But like literally the week after Breath of the Wild comes out, it just, hey, it's the best Zelda game ever, apparently. And pure 10 out of
Yeah.
10's game of the year, couldn't compete. This year it comes out. I can't remember, last year it came out. I can't remember what followed it, but another big game, it just came out right after it.
Was
I
it
can't
Elden
remember.
Ring?
It was Elden Ring.
Elden Ring. Yeah.
Elden Ring completely stole the thunder. It was just like,
Yeah.
really?
'Cause
This
at the
game
game,
ruled though.
yeah, because at the Game Awards this last year, God,
And
God
God
of
of
War,
War. Those two came out
God of War
and
and Elden Ring.
stole Horizon's
Yeah.
thunder, which is like, Sony,
Yeah.
give Guerrilla Games the spotlight. They need to be the game of a calendar year. Don't
Yeah.
fuck with them. These two games, the facial animations in this game, dude, maybe the greatest I've ever played. And I've watched the new Last of Us, right? The remake.
Yeah.
Played God of War, which great motion capture. This game blows everything out of the water. The lighting on their mocap is just holy shit. It is going from the first game to this game. It's like, whoa. Whoa, you can tell we jumped a console generation. God damn. It's awesome. Graphically,
That's saying a lot because the first game was just
it's
fucking
still
beautiful
gorgeous. I just played it on my
on the
PS5. It's
PS4.
gorgeous.
Yeah.
But this new one, holy shit, what a jump, dude. Like, imagine what they're going to do with the third game.
Yep.
Wow. That's going to be crazy.
But like you said, they really need to dedicate. It needs to be like the main title within a given calendar year.
Yeah, stop stealing their thunder.
Or it doesn't even have to be a calendar year in the fall season. Like you have another game released in the spring or summer, and then let their sequel be the fall release, the big
Yeah,
title.
especially if like this ends up being like the third one being like is like the final one in the story or whatever.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. And Xbox is really good about their exclusives when they do that. They don't try to crowd the
yeah, like
space.
Gears isn't going to come right after Halo. At least I'm talking hypotheticals here. Halo's not what it once was, of course, but Gears 6 is going to get its own moment.
And then obviously with the Bethesda acquisition of, once that's finalized, that not finalized, but once they fully admit to it, the games will be exclusively on Xbox, right? We know it's coming. They just haven't announced it officially, but Fallout's going to get its own exclusive. period, the next Elder Scrolls. Like I have a feeling Microsoft won't crowd their space,
Yeah. So
which is interesting. Why Sony would do something like that?
it's so weird because they're hitting on all other cylinders for me.
Like well, to be fair, Elden
Elden Ring was
last year,
cross-platform,
but the other thing was they didn't think Elden Ring was going to be as big as it
which is crazy
was.
because it was FromSoft.
Yeah, I know, but they
But
were
that
counting on
game
God of War
popped
being
so hard. It's
yeah.
kind of crazy.
And then Forbidden West was just kind of like an under the radar sequel, like
Yeah, still really good. Sold pretty well.
yeah, yeah.
It just wasn't, game of the year caliber, I guess. But in my opinion, it should have been.
It got nominated for those awards, but
Yeah, it was
Ragnarok
definitely a
and Elden
distant
Ring
third
were
or fourth, which
yeah.
is
Yep.
understandable. Those other two games were just incredible games. But
Yep.
so far, I'm really liking Forbidden West. Other stuff, of course, we've been watching The Last of Us. We're going to talk about that. Bad Batch, staying up with that. Really liking
Sure.
it. The two-parter from last week, Fusion. That was some great Star Wars storytelling. It's about they actually dive into why why and when the clones were replaced with
Oh,
with like drafted
finally.
troops,
Yep.
and you get into the conspiracy and like you see the behind the scenes machinations of the Empire, and it's like, yeah, politics can be engaging, guys.
Yeah, that's I haven't watched this season. I need to. I probably will before Mando comes out. But we had talked about that because they tease in one of the early episodes of the first season about the transition of clones
Yeah, they're
over
really
to
diving into that
the
more this season, and
yeah.
we've gotten multiple episodes without the Bad Batch at all, like two, I think, and then they've been tied in. One was a two-parter, the other was all with Crosshair, and you see Commander Cody again. And you actually get into the minds of the clones now that the Empire has won, which I
Mhm.
really really appreciate. Also restarted watching Arcane. Got through episode
Okay.
1 recently, and I don't know why, but it's in my YouTube recommended now. So I'm like, I watched the fight scenes and I'm like, God damn, this is impressive. I need to watch this show again. And also tomorrow, which has gotten good early reviews, Picard, Star Trek Picard comes back tomorrow. And man, I'm a sucker for a good Star Trek show. So if
Did you
it's
see Mika?
decent,
Did you see Mika Burton's
that was
tweet?
I'm gonna love that moment when it happens. I hope it's
Yeah,
in the premiere. Because that'd be a
that's
great
gonna be cool.
moment.
That's gonna be such a great moment for
Heck yeah. Getting
for
to
Rooster
like be
Teeth
a lieutenant. Is she a
fans.
I
Yeah,
think she's is a lieutenant or something on the
I think she's
on the
lieutenant,
vessel with her dad.
yeah, yeah,
That's fucking cool. That's
yeah,
just incredible. And I really am looking forward to seeing with these characters that we haven't seen in canon in a very long time beyond Picard himself. They've been mentioned, of course. Frakes, Riker and Troy were in season 1, but just kind of as a really ancillary roles, not as an ongoing
yeah.
kind of character. So I'm hoping we get more with them. Actually, we got more Riker in freaking Lower Decks than we did in Picard. So I'm hoping we get some fun Star Trek stories and actually like salvage what has been a very middling to bad seasons 1 and 2.
Yeah.
If season 3 can hit, I'll be happy because then you know what's coming around the corner.
Yes.
Strange New World season 2, man. Let's go.
I think because this is it. They're wrapping it up. What is it? A 10 episode season with Picard.
Yes, 10 episodes.
Okay. When they wrap this up, hopefully they put a nice bow on Jean-Luc Picard's legacy. Like just because he's obviously he arguably is the favorite captain. Now I'm gonna tell you by the time Strange New Worlds wraps up, Pike's gonna be in the running, man.
Dude,
Because
Pike's awesome. Anson
season
Mount
one,
is just
Anson Mount was
oh,
incredible in season 1, man.
so good.
So
Damn good.
I'm a Kirk fan, but I'm not a Shatner fan, but
And I'm
I
a
like
sucker
the
for Captain
character.
Sisko. Once he goes the goatee and shaves, it's over.
Yeah,
Dude's awesome. Like he was
I'm
so
a Kirk
hardcore.
fan.
Even Worf was like, dude, you gotta back the fuck off the bloodthirst there, man. Like,
I'll be say I'm a Kirk fan, but I'm more of a Pine Kirk fan just because I liked his crazy shooting from the hip approach of the character.
yeah, he played it as more. Well, number one, Pine's just a way better actor, right? Like,
Oh yeah,
he actually can
definitely.
do something with the character. Whereas Shatner
Yeah.
overhams everything, and that's his note. He's a one note
That's
kind of
his
guy.
note. Yep.
Whereas Pine is an actual actor, an all around actor, I should say, not an actual actor. But yeah, he actually could bring that to the role. Whereas Shatner, plus they were in different eras too. Like he was coming in as an established character in the canon versus like new Trek.
Yeah.
you got to take him through his origins to finally being captain, right? It's obviously different, but yeah, man, I don't know. All the captains got something interesting to them.
But I will say I'm a big Jean-Luc Picard fan because I was a kid when Next Generation came out and I really got into it, you know. That was my Star Trek because it aired when I was, you know,
And there's
growing
nothing
up.
better than a good Picard monologue.
No.
Like,
No.
I always watch the one from Drumhead, which is when the half Romulan
Yep.
non-commissioned officer gets drummed out of service, or they try to at least, and he like basically owns the judge and like gets her to admit she's being a xenophobic idiot, and like really puts her in her place. Just a great monologue. Love that episode. One of the all-time great Trek episodes.
Yeah. But yeah, I can't wait. I can't wait for season 2 of Strange New Worlds, but you know, hopefully they wrap up Picard just because like I didn't watch the first season as it aired. You did. You were like, it's okay. In season 2, you were like, yeah, it's not really
It
destination TV,
it
man,
suffers
honestly.
from the fact that they changed showrunners like 3 times in the first season. Season 2, they get a new showrunner, but it's not a new cast. Like, he's stuck with this box of misfit toys. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, you can only do so much unless you kill everyone and start over. Like, and that's not going to work because people are on contract, you know, like, you can't just reset in season 2. Some shows have been able to do that. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Legends of Tomorrow, but that was more network TV. It's not as high stakes. You know, it's not this legacy huge IP, right?
Sure.
And it's not being helmed by one of the greatest, you know, working actors of our time, and Patrick Stewart, right? Like, and he didn't want it to be a reunion show. It's why he came back, right? He didn't want that. It's kind of funny that's where they're ending up in season 3 because
Yeah.
it's what fans wanted. Clearly, it is. Especially when everyone wanted, when they said Picard was having a show, we were like, oh man, all these characters could come back, but then they shut that down and say Patrick Stewart would never have gone for that, which kind of sucks. But I'm hoping at least season 3 will be fun.
Yeah.
And if they can give us a spin-off with Jerry Ryan's Captain 7, are you that show writes itself. That would be fucking awesome. Because her arc is maybe the best part of the entire show so far. Of like coming to terms with her loss, being a human, not like a former Borg, and her reintegration into society in terms
Yeah.
of now she's coming back to join Starfleet. It's fucking cool, dude. Man, I'm kind of sad we haven't gotten any more Voyager characters to like riff off with her. But maybe none of them wanted to come back for anything too. They could have been asked.
Yeah, it's possible.
Because her and Mulgrew obviously had some bad blood, but it seems they've buried that hatchet. And she's been in Star Trek Prodigy as both a hologram version of Janeway and actual Janeway. But we haven't gotten any communication between those two.
Yeah.
And Picard killed Icheb. What the fuck? You watched Voyager, right?
Yes.
So Icheb's one of the Borg kids that they rescue, and like basically his seventh surrogate son. They just fucking murder him off screen. Like, season 1 had absolutely no regard for actual Star Trek characters, which
No.
really pissed me off. But I don't want this to be about Picard. Let's talk about The Last of Us.
Okay.
All right, so The Last of Us, episode 5, Endure and Survive, aired this past Sunday, or actually last Friday.
Yep.
We're way behind the time on this one, but hey,
Yep.
it's a podcast. So, big takeaways from episode 5 for you. And you can go 4 too, because you didn't talk about that with me.
Sure. For I think honestly, episode 4 killed the viewership of episode 5. If you
In
go
3?
look at I'm sorry, no,
Didn't
episode
it go
4.
up 60%?
Yeah, it did. But people watched episode 4, and at the end of a lot of people watched episode 4, weren't very happy with it because the number is like they got a 0.38 share for episode 5. Like it's a third of what it was for episode 4.
It was also on
But
Friday
also
night.
it was also on Friday night. Remember that. And a lot of people did not watch the feed, did not look at the Twitter feed, did not notice, like watch the end of the episode where they talked about that. Like, very good point. Very good point. So the streaming numbers for episode 5, now that I really think about this, are a little off because of that. It was released off schedule.
Yeah, that one
for
gets
the
an
Super Bowl.
asterisk next to it.
Okay.
Don't look at the number.
Sure. I think episode 4, a lot slower paced. I think a little empty at times, you know. it just, I think it was a big, just a big shift after all the emotional release of episode 3, long, long time. Episode 5 was fun. We get a lot of the things we were looking for. We get our first horde sighting, we get our bloater and all that stuff. So, um, very curious on how they took approach to Kathleen, the character Kathleen, Melanie Linsky's character. Um, Episode 4, very vague. You have an idea that she's hunting after somebody. Okay, fine. Then we learn a little bit more in episode 5, but I really didn't like her character too much, honestly. So wasn't sad to see how her ending hit. But I do like the growth between Ellie and Joel, and obviously we're about to get Tommy here very soon. So it's going to be next episode. We got the previews for Tommy. Can't wait to see that, tell her story, because obviously there is a huge thing from the sneak peek. There's a big rift there, and we're gonna have to learn why. It's not just differences of opinion on something. Something major happened between the brothers. Obviously, we're gonna get some flashback, but it looks like we're gonna get current too. So I'm all for that. Still a very good show. Don't get me wrong, but I think episode 4 for me, the pacing really took a hit, and that kind of took me a little bit, episode 4, because at the end of it I was like, yeah, I really didn't like this episode. Wasn't awful, but just really didn't like it. And then episode 5 was good. We were back. It feels like we're on pace. So it was weird to kind of have that setup episode. I don't know what your thoughts on that, but it felt weird for me. Why not just could there have been a way where we integrated all of Kansas City together in one episode?
Well, it's telling that they had the same director for both.
Yeah.
So like they were clearly wanting it to be part 1 and 2.
Yep.
Especially because they were splitting up the narrative of the flashbacks and stuff with Kansas City. Episode 4, though, like I said in my solo thing, it was kind of necessary because you just had this one-off episode with 2 characters we hadn't seen before.
That's fair.
And you also need to sell the growth of the relationship of Joel and Ellie. That needs to be the hook. If you're not done with this by now, it's not going to happen and the finale won't matter. So that was the narrative this needed to fucking work. And by the end of episode 4, you bought that they were on much better terms, right? Like they were getting along, they were laughing, they were, actually working together instead of just him treating her like she was cargo, as he says early in the episode.
Yep.
I thought that if nothing else, episode 4 carried that off excellently. Okay. But I do echo you about the Melanie or the Kathleen part with Melanie Linsky, and the whole Kansas City Resistance subplot was, I don't want to say underbaked, but just underexplored. Because my big takeaway was, damn, everyone's real cool with killing kids now, huh?
Yeah.
Like
exactly.
She's got him cornered. And Sam was like, I needed to save my brother, but you can kill me, leave my brother. She's like, no, he's gonna die. And the kid and the girl she's with too, that we don't know. Like, really, it's an apocalypse. You do know kids matter, right? Survival of the species and all that.
Yep.
Nobody, no, not a peep from anybody she's with. Everyone is just blind following her. Like, I don't know, man. That was a big stretch.
I don't know if it was Kathleen that said this, but no, it wasn't Kathleen. Was it Henry, the older brother?
Henry was the older brother.
Okay. When they were in the office building and he tells Joel kind of what happened with the resistance what was it, a few weeks before or a week before, or a couple weeks before?
Yeah, it had been like just before they got to Kansas City.
Well, basically just kind of iterating that the fact that the reason why they fought back was because all of the Fedra soldiers were raping people, like just beating and raping people, and it was like, but it was such a passing line, and it really felt like, okay, I think we need to touch on that a little bit more, because I know we obviously know Joel has a thing against Fedra. But he still maintains life within the QZ in Boston, right? He still functions within it, working, whether he's working with the Fireflies, but there's obviously an agenda outside of Fedra. He still maintains existence within Fedra rather than going out and living on his own, right? So, and then we're going to learn more about how Wyoming is set up. What is Wyoming? Because there's obviously a community that they're going to visit. So how does that function? How does it operate? How do they resist Fedra if Fedra tries to come in? Things like a lot of questions like that. But I just was really disturbed by the passing line of just telling the story of like why there was a resistance that got built up was because basically they were raping all of the kids, the children and the adults, within the zone. And I'm like, but it was just so casually like just brushed off. And yeah, and then her character, Kathleen's character, the motivation for her really just felt really off for me. Like just I did not like it at all.
Well, I think part of it was they took too long to reveal that it was her brother.
Yeah.
Like why
Well,
she wanted
in
Henry dead.
episode four, in episode four, it was very just like she's pissed off, she's running around, she's shooting and
And
killing people.
everybody's behind her that Henry needs to die.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, and everybody's also totally fine with murdering this 10-year-old
Yep.
just
So
in the street.
you're wondering like Henry must have did something really major involving Fedra, something or other, right? Like, it wasn't just that he killed her brother, who was the leader of the resistance
Yeah.
for drugs. Now, like when you learn about, his little brother had cancer and it was for medication. Okay, like even still, like I did not like her character. I'll be honest with you, did not like her character. Now it wasn't like a total buzzkill because of the way the resistance's fate was met at the end of the episode in that big scene uh with the horde. But at the same time, I just really thought that I think it really maybe we could have had more of Henry and his brother and less of her and her search of them in that like what went on in Kansas City, like maybe some flashbacks, right? Like I need to see more of what happened because in the game it's Pittsburgh, not Kansas City, right? It's a big deal in the game. It's a really big deal in the game when they go through Pittsburgh on their way west. So for me, it was just like, oh, it was kind of a short stop here, and we got into trouble, and we're out. Like escaping from Kansas City was just okay. They go through the tunnel, and that's really it. That was it. They were out, and then at the very end they get the confrontation. But I'm talking about like escaping the actual city itself. It felt like there was going to be more of a confrontation there. When there wasn't within the city itself. So it made more sense. And I think they really kind of. I really think that the last few episodes kind of. It really didn't put a big value on what happened in Kansas City, like what took place there. It didn't, and I didn't like that.
Eh. I don't know if that was entirely necessary though, because that's not the
Okay,
story they're trying to tell.
sure.
It's not the main focus isn't this is how the world ended. It's about Joel and Ellie, and also thematically about how the lengths that love can both help you and hurt you, like how, or hatred too. Like uh, Kathleen's character, because she wanted to kill Henry so bad, basically fucked her entire civilization because
Yeah,
she, was so hell bent on revenge that it destroyed her and everyone around her. And that's kind of one of the things with Last of Us as a story
true.
is that where that road leads is never good, both in the first game and the second.
Yeah,
So I thought that was done well enough. I just would have. I don't know what I would have changed other than maybe either speeding up the confrontation with them or explaining why in the first place, because it takes
yeah,
us an episode and a half for that to get there,
yep.
which is a bit much, kind of
So
stretching it.
you were okay with the fact that the uprising wasn't a big detail within the
Yeah,
show.
because it's just
Okay.
kind
Okay.
of not really set dressing, but more just, hey, this is something that happened, like kind of world building a little bit. But you're not wrong that seeing how it was before would have, I
Yeah.
think, lended more weight to the resistance as an entity, as a group. So
If you were a little tighter on the story in episode 4 and then in episode 5, what parts were of Kansas City you get some flashbacks. I think would have been fine. And it would have put a little more value to see like what Kathleen and I forget what was her brother's name? I forget his name
I
now.
don't remember either.
But like to understand like what their dynamic was in the whole scheme of like before and after the uprising. So,
Yep. But talking about some stuff I did like though, I really liked the departure of making Sam deaf. I thought
yeah.
that added a lot of terms of where Henry's coming from, in terms of
Sure.
being a caretaker as a brother, right? And like that Sam's whole world is dependent on this one guy who knows sign language and can actually communicate with him effectively. In an apocalypse setting, that's pretty important. Like knowing, hey, I'm stepping on glass because he can't hear it.
Yeah.
right? Like that's a pretty big point. Another big change was Ellie knowing before they went to bed that Sam was infected, and she tries to cure him, and that
Yeah,
like strengthens her resolve to get West and be the cure, which is going to make the gut punch of what happens in the finale much worse
obviously.
because she's bought in now, and Joel sees that he's going to probably get there too. Um, the only thing I would have changed there if Ellie's going to have known, 100% she should have, and I think this character would have said something to Joel. That was a little like, okay, if you're going to change one thing, you got to change more than that one thing.
Okay.
Because in the game, she doesn't know Sam's infected. Nobody
Yeah.
does. Sam hides it. Only the audience knows. But in the show, clearly Ellie does and tries to cure him with her blood. Hunter, like, as much as Joel and her have talked, she would have told him, "Hey, he's been bitten. I'm gonna try to cure him." Like, would they try to tie him down? All that kind of stuff. But then you'd be robbed of the moment of Henry killing his brother.
I think that was more of a show of as rough as she's had things, there's still a innocence to her. That
True.
she had hope. She had hope that she was going to be able to save him, you know? Like she had a little bit of blind hope. Like, hey, I'm going to give him I'm going to rub my blood on him. It's going to it's she was telling herself it's going to work. It's going to work, you
True.
know?
That's a
And
good way
I
to
will
look at it.
and that like that in that whole sequence the next morning. Oh God, fucking brutal,
Yeah,
man.
I knew
Like
it was
just
coming. Knew it was
we
coming,
knew it
and it
was coming.
still
Another
just
another one, just another scene that we knew was coming, and it still got you. God.
yeah. Like the narrative of the game and the story is just damn it hits you
Yeah.
hard. I do wonder though. I was reading I think it was a Polygon article, how The Last of Us and a lot of zombie stuff at that time, even though it's not zombies, I know, but it's a similar genre.
Sure.
Man, it is just like almost disaster porn in terms of there's no redeeming
Hope.
light there.
Yeah.
And that makes it hard to root for people in the show, especially with what's going to happen in the finale. That's good, man. The discourse around the finale is going to be interesting.
Yeah, because there are a lot of people that are into the show that did not play the game.
Oh yeah, quite a bit because the
So
game is up several. I want to say several 100% in sales,
yeah.
in terms of on PC at least, where they tracked it. But
Oh
yeah,
man. Yeah. It's gonna be brutal. Obviously we're gearing up for Tommy and Joel's story. And I think it's gonna talk a little bit more about we're gonna learn a lot more that Joel isn't he's got he's a redemption character, but there is a lot there for him to get redeemed, to find redemption for. We're gonna learn obviously from the game we knew, but I think they're making him to be a lot worse out in the show, honestly. Like
and
he's gonna
again, it comes back to
yeah.
games. You can like you get away with the violence
Yep.
because it's a video game. Everything's violent, right? It's just part of the gameplay mechanic. Whereas in the show, like that's much weightier. Like when
Yeah.
they're killing people, like that is. I mean, like I don't know if it's because we see they're quote unquote real because they're not CGI, but it is, man. It's impactful. So yeah, like they're setting up for some pretty dark background stuff there, which I'm curious to see how that looks.
Yeah.
Any other
Still
takeaways?
still a good show, man. I
Oh,
enjoy it. I
I'd
do.
say great show so far.
It's gonna win a fuck ton of
Oh yeah,
it's gonna get nominated for a fuck ton of awards. Let me
yeah,
just
yeah.
say
We'll
that.
see
Not
what comes out the rest of the year, but
because we got to this week we got Ted Lasso
heck
being
yeah.
announced. Like we've got a lot of stuff coming, and we got Mando. Like there's a lot of good content coming this year, and I expect a lot of it to be up in running for awards. So it's got an uphill battle, but I
Plus more
still think we
HBO, like
can.
Succession's coming back. There's a couple other big HBO shows that are coming on.
We're
So
getting the final season of Stranger Things. Well, no, we're not getting that. We're getting final season of Cobra Kai this year. Like, there's a lot of things that are going to be looked at for award nominations. But this one, whether it be cinematography,
oh, it's
the
gonna win a.
score,
It's gonna probably win something for cinematography.
yeah, for score, things like that. Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey are they'll get nominated for best actors and best
Most
actress
likely.
and I could see that happening. I still like, hopefully with the Emmy the Emmy awards, like the daytimes, there is that guest appearance award. I want to see one of those two guys, Bartlett or Hoffman, get nominated.
I love they
So
both do, and they go up and just like, we're gonna win it together. Fuck it. There's
yeah,
two.
that would be really a cool moment, man. If one of them wins it and they both go up there to accept the award,
Yeah,
that would
that'd
be
be
cool.
awesome.
Yeah, but it's still a very good show, man. I mean, like I said earlier, episode 4 was a little different for me. That did not make it bad. I just felt like there was a lot there, and I think for me, at the end of it all, a lot of it had to do with the Kathleen character. That could have We could have really done a lot better with Kathleen's character, and just her story with the resistance. And I think if that could have made episode 4 a lot better. And there are a few things that we could have like done with episode 5, but that doesn't mean it was bad, because episode 5 was still a really good episode, from start to finish. So yeah, and we got a bloater finally. All right. So
True. And it
yeah.
looked fantastic.
I think for me, as the audio guy, the sounds of the bloater,
Yeah.
like just the brute force of hearing him punch things and push things, is like fuck
And when he
that was
rips
cool.
Perry's head off,
Head off. Oh man, just
yeesh.
yeah, it's intense. But like you said, that feeling of hopelessness creeps in every time you watch. And if you play the game, you know what's going to happen eventually, and you're like, still gets you watching it, man. Good show.
All right, so should we move on to trailer talk?
Yeah, let's do some trailer talk here.
Okay. 36. Just making a mark for time.
He's marking the tape.
So, two big ones, of course, that dropped for the Super Bowl or right before the Super Bowl were Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 and DC's The Flash, which is the final iteration or movie in the DCEU before they tear it all down and build her back up under James Gunn. Plus some others that had been in production before too. But this is the last big tentpole one.
Yeah.
Which, oddly enough, we didn't get a Shazam trailer. Did we? Did I miss a Shazam trailer?
No, there was no Shazam trailer in the.
Which is
in
wild
Super
to me
Bowl.
because the movie's out in a month. Like, we haven't really gotten anything new from that movie.
I don't really think they really give a shit at this point about Shazam.
True.
Yeah. I mean, if you look honestly, if you look at the slate for the gods and monsters, obviously James Gunn loves the monsters, and with gods and monsters, there was nothing in terms of like the Shazam family. So in that slate, so yeah,
Yeah, maybe they just want to let that IP cool off a little bit.
Yeah,
and just like reset everything, figure out what they want to do. But so, what do you want to start? You want to start Guardians, or you want to start the Flash?
Let's start with Guardians. I mean, obviously, at this point, both trailers are tied somewhat into James Gunn at this point. But
oddly enough, that is true.
Let's go with Guardians because this is the swan song of James Gunn in the MCU. Obviously, he is now heading over Warner Brothers and the DC properties, film and television properties. So, when that first teaser trailer came out, I think we both said it online, like, oh, man, I have a feeling this is going to be an emotional ride, right? I am very curious because in this trailer, it's mentioned twice that this is their swan song. And I really want to know, like, what the hell is going to happen now? Because outside of it being like, oh, everyone believes they're figuring out who's going to die, all that stuff, right? But for them to keep saying that this is their last ride, what is that like? For me, it's like, what does that even mean? What does that mean in terms of like, why would this be their last ride as a group? What's happening here? Like, obviously, someone's dying, or like what does that mean? Are they going to war with the high evolutionary? It does have me worried how the story's going to end, but it's still, it's Disney, it's Marvel. There's no way it has a completely sad ending, right? There's no way.
I don't think so, but it's going to be very bittersweet.
Yeah, it will be.
How about this though? We're getting Kang, the Conqueror version, and the High Evolutionary back to back as villains. You ever thought you'd see that in the MCU? Not when it started. I didn't think that was coming.
No shit, man. Like, and we got Eternity in a horrible movie, but at least we got a really good rendition. Like style wise, it was a beautiful looking Eternity in Love and Thunder. So we're getting a lot of really cool cosmic characters, right?
Yeah.
Eternals, they did a good job with the Celestials. Like, I thought the look was great. Now there's a lot to be desired in the story, but
and the lore,
man,
the lore of the Celestials has never made a lot of sense.
No, it's
bad shit.
Yeah. The only real thing, the real reason why you have the Celestials in the comic book world is outside of the Eternals is the Dreaming Celestial that's involved with that's sitting is that's been standing in San Francisco for years, right? That's the big key piece of things, right? And then the seeds, the Death Seed and the Life Seed and all that stuff, right? But anyway, outside of comic books, um, I'm like, man, it's interesting to me because the evolutionary, the way he looks in these two trailers is he all powerful or is he almost like a Mr. Sinister type person?
I think that's where they're setting him up as, like a cosmic
Yeah,
Mister Sinister.
like a tinkerer, like a science, like a scientist of sorts, rather than like the High Evolutionary. And you know this in the comics is a very powerful. He can just alter reality, you know,
Yeah,
and that's not the way obviously the way these animals, these creatures that he builds are designed. There's no way he just pure magic he can make them, you know, anthropomorphic. So it doesn't make sense for that. So, but it makes it interesting because then he's not so powerful to where he poses a threat, but at the same time he's not like an uber powered threat that he just like they cannot defeat him. Because at the end of the movie, at the end of it, he's got to be defeated, right? Adam
yep.
Warlock, I'm okay with Will Poulter being cast. I don't think he's gonna play a bit as big of a role as you think. You know, I think we're gonna get a lot more of the dynamic between Star Lord and
The team.
yeah, and the team. So it looks like a lot more of Rocket too. This is like Rocket's story. So
True, and that's why everyone's thinking he's going to be the one that dies.
I don't think he dies, man. I think it's gonna be Drax because there's a lot of reasons why. Drax has fought with a death wish from the very beginning, and obviously Dave Bautista no longer wants to be a part of the MCU, whereas
Or what if it's both?
could be both, but
Because
I
like
think
something happens
Rocket
to Rocket, Drax goes on a one man mission, and that's how he dies.
that's possible. If there's two deaths, that's a lot of death. Like of the Guardians characters of the Guardians team.
But we
Um,
do know Drax, he's done. Batista's done.
yep, he said I'm no
So
longer playing this
that
character.
leaves that as an on the table. Do they just kill him?
Whereas Rocket Raccoon can appear in anything with Bradley Cooper's voice. You
Yeah.
know, that's ageless behind a microphone, and it's just CGI. So, and people like Rocket, and he could be a character that can still be in other cosmic movies. You know, he could be in Eternals. He could be in anything else you do.
Yeah.
Um, but it sounds like that they just want to. What it sounds like is that we're not going to get any more Star Lord after this. You know,
Which makes
I
sense.
think this Gamora and Star Lord retire, and in nowhere or whatever happens, and then they just, the Ravagers take, some of them go with the Ravagers, like maybe uh, Nebula goes with the Ravagers. Groot, obviously, maybe Groot goes home. I don't know, but it's possible. But for me, it feels like it's Drax. It feels like
I
it's
can see
Drax.
that. So, of course, the trailer was teasing that Star Lord and Nebula might be a thing. Do you think that's more of just a trailer misdirect?
I think that's a big misdirect, man. I think so. I don't see that as because she's not built with that kind of personality. Like she's never shown that type of like emotional attachment. Well, no, I'm gonna say let me correct myself. Outside of just a couple scenes with Tony Stark, she hasn't really shown that emotional attachment.
Yeah.
So I
That
don't
and
see that.
Rocket with the whole during Endgame, but basically a lot during Endgame.
I saw a really good commentary on Endgame about like the dynamic between Nebula and Tony, and that like, hey, she it wasn't like a romantic thing, but just like she grew attached to him because he treated her like no one else had ever treated her, not even like Gamora did, like in terms of like he treated her with like a level of respect.
Yeah, she was just a person,
Yeah,
you know, and
yeah,
she had to watch him die, basically.
yeah.
So,
But
but
man, it's gonna be tough to see this one, man. I really think I don't know whatever the outlook looks like, but I know if you're here in Austin and we get a block of seats for the draft house, we might as well just bring a box of Kleenex because whoever's with us
gonna
is
need
gonna
it.
need it, man. It's gonna
Yeah, it's
need it, man.
gonna be a rough watch. That is for
I just hope
sure.
the soundtrack is so fucking
Oh,
good. Like,
it's gonna. Gunn's bringing his A game, dude.
yeah,
Like clearly with Peacemaker, he didn't miss a beat, so he came to play with this one.
yeah. I think we have there's a lot there. There's going to be obviously a ton of humor, and maybe they do make Warlock kind of like a stupid character, like a goofy young, like immature, unaware of just the world character, because he is technically young. But I think we're going to get a lot of that with MODOK too and Quantumania. So I don't think we want to have too much of the of the court jester type characters in all these movies. We don't want to do too much, and that was Drax's role, honestly. So you don't want to take too much away from Drax. So
True. So should we move on to another James Gunn now property, but different?
let's do this. Let's do this, man, because there's a lot to unpack with this Flash trailer,
There's
man.
so much to unpack. First off, we're talking the Flash here. God damn, this trailer was good. Like, I had absolutely was like, I mean, I'll see it because it's the last of the DCEU. I wasn't expecting that. I knew Zod was going to be in it. I didn't know it was basically going to say, hey, we're retelling half of Man of Steel.
Yeah.
Like, fucking what?
But there's a reason to that.
Right? Like, because they're riffing off the Superman version that is in Flashpoint, where he's been captured by the military, he's like emaciated,
Yeah.
right? Like no human connection, like just a shell of a person. And then he connects with Cyborg, because that's who rescues him, to lead the resistance against what was in the comic book. It's Aquaman versus Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
Which I gotta say, once again, Flashpoint Paradox, the animated adaptation, stellar. That was some awesome stuff. They really nailed that adaptation. Obviously, they condensed some things, but
Yeah.
it was really, really well done. This is going to be more of a taking cliff notes from Flashpoint than anything else.
Yep.
We're not getting Superman, we're doing Supergirl, but it's going to be technically Kara Zor-El, but it's modeled after an Injustice version of the character, which
That's
is
right.
Laura Lane Kent.
Mhm.
Laura, which is Superman's mom's name. So it's like, but that's who the look is modeled after. Which makes me wonder if this is supposed to be a one-off because we're going to get traditional Supergirl in the future. I don't really know. And at the time when this movie was supposed to come out, Supergirl was still on TV. So maybe it was just to create a separate version look of the character, to not to confuse audiences and still get away with using it. Of course, we get 2 Barry Allens, which that I forgot was going to be a thing. Was that there's going to be 2 Barry Allens?
Basically, but it looks like it's an entire movie of 2 Barrys.
Yes. Which is very different than the comic, which means they're not doing Eobard. Unless they're going to pull the twist that the one Barry is Eobard in disguise, but there's no setup for that because you don't have time to also introduce Eobard as a villain. So it's not going to happen. It'd be cool. It's not going to happen. It just wouldn't make any sense for the casual audience. And Batfleck's back, which I knew.
Yep.
My guess is he's just beginning and end character.
Yeah, I think he's a bridge character, obviously.
Yeah, he's not going to be in most of the movie.
Yeah.
But man, my main man, Michael fucking Keaton is back. And Ezra Miller's character gives him, say it. Can you say it? Yeah, I'm Batman. Like, so fucking good. And then they kick into him kicking ass with bad guys, Danny Elfman's theme kicking up. You know how fucking rad that's going to be?
Man.
Once he reveals himself and you hear the score first as he steps out of the shadows in the Batcave, I'm going to lose my shit. It's going to be incredible. I can already tell what's going to happen there beat for beat with him. It's still going to be amazing because it's Michael fucking Keaton. Oh, it's going to be great.
I think overall, like we both had kept saying, with all of the problems that Ezra Miller was facing legally, and just like all these things within the last year, like why even bother doing this movie? And I think we now know why DC and Warner Brothers was like, no, we have to, because it's a good fucking movie. Like, well, it feels like it's a good Flash movie, right? We were both very curious because here's the other thing: you look at both Barry Allens. And the biggest complaint is the current iteration of Ezra Miller's Barry Allen is with the blue lightning bolt and all of that stuff with like the electrical look, versus the other Barry Allen in this one is a more traditional Flash suit with the yellow and red streaks, right? So you're like, okay, so we're getting like a traditional style Flash, and he's going to be the counterbalance to what we've seen the current Ezra Miller Barry Allen go through this whole story. So it makes you wonder like what happens at the end of this, because which Barry is it that survives and all of that. And honestly, we both know because we saw stills, months ago, there is a third Ezra Miller Barry that we know is going to be showing up too, and we don't know what his like story is.
Yeah,
he could be a darker version of the Flash. He could be a Zoom.
Are they going to do the Black Racer?
Or the Black Racer? I don't think they really go too much into the Speed Force, because what we've seen of this iteration of Barry, he still doesn't really know much about it.
Except
but
for
maybe
the crossover with the Flash the show. Like
that was the
he's
only
like,
way he
I
learned
told
about.
Victor there was a speed force as he fades
Yeah,
away. Like
yeah,
that was so well done, and then they do nothing with it in the movies,
yep.
which was a big
Now,
letdown.
now we're both assuming that we're not going to get a Grant Gustin cameo, which I think we will. I think we will
I think
in
they're
some way,
gonna.
shape,
I
or form.
think he's gonna see him, like when he's
Yeah,
running through to go back in time. I think we're gonna see that timeline and not go to it. We're just gonna see it. It's gonna be a nice wink and a nod.
yeah. It
You know?
just, but we're still going to get a Grant Gustin like shot somewhere
Or
in there.
or
It's
the
not.
better yet, are we gonna get a? God, I'm blanking on his name. He plays gay. He plays Jay in the Flash.
Oh, Ship, John
John
Wesley Ship.
John Wesley Shipp. Are we gonna see him?
Oh, that would be kind of cool.
I mean, of all the characters that do legacy characters really well,
He does Jay Garrick very well.
The Flash characters, the Flash family is very much a thing,
Yeah.
right? It's almost akin to the Bat family in terms of
Yep.
carrying on the mantle and the legacy. Like it wouldn't shock me if they work in a wink and a nod to that one too. You know, of him running through the various different versions of himself.
Now, but if you remember, Crisis on Infinite Earths, the TV show, the series, is somewhat tied into this universe now.
Technically, yes. Technically, they're tied.
So basically, 92 John Wesley Shipp's Flash is dead. Remember, he's dead from that.
No, but it could just be him as Jay Garrick. We just know
It
it's
could
the
be Jay
character.
Garrick.
Yeah.
We know the Barry Allen, John Wesley Shipp Barry Allen is dead. So,
But he was in Elseworlds.
He was in Elseworlds. That's
He
true.
was in Elseworlds as his character in the 90s suit, which I thought was so rad. They didn't have to go that far. But they did. That's what I appreciated about the Arrowverse. They didn't have to try so hard with the limited budget they had. It was cheesy, but man, they fucking went for some shit.
But you and I both said this. Like we both appreciated the fact that they showed that all of the universes are tied in together in some way, shape, or form. From like the Adam West Batman era to the
Brandon
Teen
Routh's too,
Titans.
yeah, like
Yeah.
they
All of it's tied into like it's a multiverse. So technically, everything that you've seen exists within this show at some point. It could. So yeah, it makes sense to just have it like I said, he doesn't have to do a full standing cameo, but just have like
when he's
you said,
running through the time stream, like we see
yeah.
something,
Yep.
off to the side, like a Star Labs with Grant Gustin in it and stuff.
Yep.
That'd be something that I wouldn't mind seeing for sure.
Yeah, just kind of especially with the Flash TV show wrapping up this year, it'd be a cool little nod,
Yep.
just to say goodbye. But I was very surprised. I think Sasha Kaye, who is playing Supergirl, I think we both agree she's gonna steal the movie. I think she's gonna steal the movie.
Yeah, and her and Zod are gonna be really fun to watch go at it. Because I mean, Shannon gets to come back and do another turn as Zod.
And he was so good, man.
He was the best part of that movie.
Yeah.
Which is an underrated flick, I will say. It's just it is only hurting. It is hurt even more by the stuff that fell after.
Yeah.
Like it set up some decent stuff. None of it was really paid off, and it all kind of fell on its face after. But
and then Donna
the core
Justice
of
just
the core of Man of Steel's a very fun movie.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm very. We're gonna get a Hans Zimmer like the flight score with her as Supergirl. One last ride with that version of the Superman, kind of score with her character. At least I would hope we're getting to that flight one. I think that's the main track with when he's flying through and the soaring piano and everything.
Yep.
I hope we get that. It seems like we're gonna get a dope fight with her and Zod, which I'm here for. I would just wonder how they're gonna work in Barry resetting the timeline into that. Like they must have some fight that's gonna like destroy the world then. And Barry has to go back in time to fix it again? I don't know how that's gonna work. Because obviously in Flashpoint it's a cataclysmic event that he has to run back to stop.
I think early in the trailer they show clips from Man of Steel where Barry is in, I don't know, he's in Metropolis and not Coast City, because like you see him like in street clothes standing there and he's looking outward at a building, and then they show like the alleyway where where the world world, what is it called,
the world machine.
The world machine is like starting to work, and they like it pans out. So Maybe it has something to do with like his origin story in that timeline. Or maybe it's
Or
affect. I don't
maybe
know.
Supergirl can't stop the
Yeah.
terraforming,
Yep. And so he has to decide to make another run back, and
which is
I,
interesting.
you
That's
know,
kind of what happens in Justice League Dark Apocalypse War, which is the last animated one where the Flash reset everything in that one, where
yeah.
Darkseid drills into Earth's core and basically fucks the core, so the planet dies. So Flash just says, Constantine talks to be like, hey, you know what you got to do. And he just starts running. Fade to black. New timeline. Maybe it's something like that, where she goes up against Zod and loses.
I think this is going to end up being where this with Ezra's Barry Allen has to make this hard decision of resetting things again, and then him just kind of walking away. Like I just having to live with himself for what he did.
Yeah, because
That kind of leaves it open. Like what's the
obviously the
future of
decision's
the
going to
Flash?
be, well, he has to go make sure his mom dies.
Yeah,
Imagine how dark it could be if he had to be the one that killed her.
because we're getting another scene where Barry's mom dies. We saw that also in the trailer, the kitchen scene, right? So that it's a pivotal. I know people get tired of these origin deaths, but it's a pivotal
But with
part
the Flash, you
of the
could run
Flash.
it as it's a paradox because
Yeah,
he saw himself kill his mom, which is why he became the
no,
Flash. And then once he was the Flash, he had to kill his mom.
yep.
Like, because if you're not
It's
going to have
part. It's
Thawne, if you're not going to have Thawne
Yep.
in that picture, how does that work?
It's part of the paradox of the story that's in the comics, in that the lightning that strikes Barry Allen in his lab in the comic is actually Flash in the future having to go back and chase down Zoom, and they run through him. Like they have to do, like that's something they have to do to start their story. Like they have to do that. And obviously we're going to get that I'm sure we're going to get that in the TV show, because if you watch the pilot episode of Flash, if you look with stills, it looks like they don't show you completely, but it looks like it could be two people running through him. So they're obviously going to do that, and I think that's kind of that's a paradox that's a part of the Flash's saga in the comics. Obviously, the mom dying is a story that we know, like in live action Flash, that it's a big pivotal part to like his not just his story, but the universe as a whole. Like he cannot break that is a paradox that he cannot break. Like he just can't.
Yeah, it's a set point in time, as Doctor Who
Yep.
fans would like to say.
Yep.
Okay, so
But
that's
but good trailer, man.
yeah, it got me
I'm
hype.
excited.
It
Yeah,
got me. I was like, okay, I'm in.
yeah,
I didn't really
yep,
feel much for Shazam. I'm ready for the next phase of the DCEU. I'm ready to see what Gunn brings to the table, but also I kind of want to see how they stick the landing on this because it's
yeah,
a tricky story to do, but it's the only way to reset a universe if you're gonna do it.
yeah.
So
This is
I'm
the best way. So
yeah,
yeah, just yeah,
and I do think we saw, but you see in the trailer Batfleck in a traditional batsuit where he's
yep,
got like the blue cape and stuff. That's 100% end scene. Batman in daylight, rolling around Gotham on the bat cycle, taking down criminals in broad daylight. 100% that's reset timeline where now we'll be in like the golden age of heroes, which is like a nod to the golden age of DC Comics.
yep.
So that is 100% in the end.
I mean, we've already stated that the next Batman movie, with the first Batman movie within the Gunn universe, is going to be The Brave and the Bold, which is a little more closer to the Golden Age style of storytelling. So
Yeah,
yeah,
and I'm ready to go to that. I'm done with grimdark Snyder, and I think everybody has been for a while. I do think they have an interesting niche here because based on what I've seen from reviews of Ant-Man, people are starting to be like, okay, Marvel, cookie cutter's fine, but can we maybe go back to like the Winter Soldier? That'd be dope. Now, obviously, that's a high mark to hit for DC, but in terms of structure, all they got to do is just not make comedies and not make them super dark, and they're
yeah.
going to stand alone as a comic book format. Because Marvel movies now are basically quipathons. They're not, kind of pathos drama driven stories, right?
Hmm.
DC could fill that niche pretty well. Because I'm looking at the slate of what's to come beyond Guardians, which is a Gunn, you know, end cap on a trilogy. Beyond that, I don't know if they've got something like that in the pipeline.
Probably Fantastic Four next year when they start filming it. They're
True.
supposed to start filming. They're supposed to start filming it this year, aren't they?
But again, I don't know what that tonally is going to look like.
You're
Because
right.
if
You
it's
know, I
anything
think
like the last Phase 4 and now through Ant-Man, man, there's a lot of just I like parts. I don't like the whole as much.
yeah, you know what, man? It's a fair thing to say, and it's a problem that they're starting to see now because of Disney. And what is Marvel's problem is DC's to gain in that the more straight storytelling of heroes and not everything has to be dark, but a little more serious tone. I think people will buy into that. And I think Gunn is a good writer. Like he's shown that he has comedic chops, but within those layers of comedy, he knows how to execute with drama. So, Swamp Thing, like I
Yeah,
hope
like
that's good.
Gunn knows what a comic relief character is.
Exactly. Exactly.
Marvel's kind of turned their whole universe into comic
Reverse.
relief.
Yeah, because Ant-Man is a comic character. Miss Marvel, the Marvels is obviously not going to be completely serious. Yeah, I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. There's concern there. There's a little concern there because the slates going forward is everything looks a little too lighthearted, hokey for us. And yeah,
Especially where the high of the MCU was the Winter Soldier, which had Anthony Mackie making a few jokes, and that was about it. And it fucking ruled. That movie kicked
yeah.
so much ass. That's all DC's got to do is just kick ass. Like,
You
which
know
is
what is
again,
funny?
that doesn't need to be a great movie. Like
It's funny you
Aquaman
bring
kind of
that
kicks
up.
ass. It's not a
Yeah.
good movie. It kicks ass. You just need to be a little better on the narrative side with that kind of. You can still have a fun, action-driven tone, but still actually have some weight to your moments. Don't
Yeah.
don't get in your own way with jokes.
And it
Like
looks like this Flash movie doesn't get into like Ezra Miller's Flash in Justice League was a little hokey, right? And then they made the cameo in Peacemaker where it was hokey. But this doesn't look like it's nonstop goofiness with this character in the Flash movie.
no,
It looks like it's like, oh
like we're
my
not
God,
getting him playing with a hot dog in this one.
yeah, like
We're
there
gonna have
is
to
a
him
lot
wrestle
here
with
and
the
here.
fact of, do I have to kill my own mom to save the
Yep,
universe?
yep.
Like that's some of the
And
decision making that are
and we're
these
assuming that
characters are
that
dealing with.
And we're assuming that that only happens once in the movie. That may be a place where he has to go back multiple times and see his mom die or kill her, like because to kind of learn his lesson on how to stabilize the timeline.
Oh,
So yeah, yeah,
that's
yeah,
one of the berries makes the decision to do that. The
yep.
other one's gonna try to stop him. Fuck. That's what's gonna happen.
I mean, obviously, whatever. I don't know how like the origin of the two berries. They're going to play a big part of being together throughout the movie, but obviously there has to be a resolution between the two berries. Maybe a confrontation. That it just makes sense that at some point that they're going to have to confront each other. Like, uh, what happens for them because there has to be only one Barry Allen at the end of this, right?
Yeah.
It's going to be tough, man. But like you said, I agree. But I will tell you, I understand people are really kind of worn down with Marvel. I've been very excited for Quantum Mania only because of the fact that we finally get a seriously really good villain that
That they're not gonna
I think
kill right away.
they're not going to kill right away. But the interesting thing is that there are so many variants of this character and Jonathan Majors is fucking amazing. He's a great actor. Don't get me wrong. Like he was phenomenal in Loki. We're gonna get another variant of him in season 2 of Loki. We'll probably have him pop up like in small snippets. We'll probably get him as a Franklin Richards in the Fantastic Four. Like we're gonna get so many iterations of Jonathan Majors as a character. I'm really excited about Kang. I really am. I
Yeah.
really am.
And I'm going to see that Saturday. You're going to see that tomorrow?
I'm going Thursday night to the Draft House, man.
Yep.
Can't wait.
I'm gonna probably stay home and play more Horizon Forbidden West and work
I
on
get
another
you.
wood burning. I'm one away
Okay.
from going out to the shop and lacquering all 5 pieces. I might even do that this weekend with the
Nice.
3-day weekend.
Oh yeah, it's a 3-day weekend. Forgot
Heck
we
yeah,
have
get
Monday off.
President's Day off. I'm excited.
Mhm.
All right, any other closing thoughts?
Just a few things. Obviously, I talked about these. The big one for me is that I think we finally confirmed through Feige that Harrison Ford is taking over Thunderbolt Ross's character, and he's going to be in Captain America: New World Order. The other big thing is that apparently they're pushing a Bucky Barnes, a Winter Soldier TV show.
Well,
So
Feige also, I think in a similar interview,
he's leading
yeah,
Thunderbolts.
he's
Yeah,
leading the Thunderbolts,
yeah,
which tells me Bucky's not going to like Thunderbolt Ross, and
yep,
that's going to be their antagonistic relationship is what's going to basically be the crux that's like the rift that forms the two sides of the Thunderbolts. Like I bet the new Black Widow's going to go with Bucky, as well as probably oh my god, what is Harbor's character's name?
Oh, red,
Basically Russian Captain America.
the Red Guardian. I don't. The
Yeah,
Red
Red Guardian
Guardian.
sounds right.
Yeah, yeah.
They're probably going to be as a pod, and everyone else is going to stay on their own ends of it all, and probably rally with Thunderbolt Ross, especially U.S. Agent.
Yep.
He's gung ho
Stars and
soldier
Stripes,
man.
USA.
He's
Yep.
essentially the not self-actualized Bucky Barnes. In terms of he's just a company man who's going to follow his orders no matter what. Whereas Bucky's like, I've seen too much shit to do that.
Yep.
I've been around the block way too many times to just jump when somebody says to jump. So that's going to be an interesting cast because I don't know if they do that. Have they confirmed if that's going to be a show or a movie?
Oh, the Thunderbolts is a movie. That's a movie.
Yeah, I don't know. That to me almost feels like it could be a show and a really good one. Because other than Bucky and Red Guardian, you don't need much effects budget in terms of like powers with who's
Nope.
on the team. Beyond Abomination, I guess. But Abomination looked okay in She-Hulk.
Well, you're going to get more Blonsky too. Like he's
Yeah,
going
because
to
he can go back and forth.
change. He can change back and forth as needed for like combat situations. He's not going to be stuck in Abomination form. And then obviously they're removing Ghost. They've talked about removing Ghost from the roster. So yeah, man.
Because I thought she was cured,
Oh.
no longer has the whatever it was that was doing that to her.
It was
That's what
my
I
understanding that it was my understanding in Ant-Man and Wasp that she wasn't cured. They were going into the quantum realm to get energy to help stabilize her,
yeah, that's
not
what I mean.
cure
Like
her.
she wouldn't be able to
Okay.
phase anymore once she stabilized.
Okay.
That was what allowed her was to phase, was that she was not stable.
I'll be honest with you. I'm not a big fan. I wasn't a big fan of that movie as well, the Ant-Man and Wasp, but I just wasn't a big fan of the character. So I think they could do without her. You know, there are other characters that can be introduced to add to that roster. It doesn't have to be an established name, you know.
Yeah, because you already got Black Widow and Baron
Yep.
Zemo.
Yep.
Basically 2 super spies.
Yep.
So I don't know if you need a third.
And your muscle is Blonsk is Abomination, but you know, people were thinking, oh, Harrison Ford's going to voice a Red Hulk. I don't think we're going to get a Red Hulk out of Thunderbolt Ross at this point, because if he really is going to be President Ross going forward, he will be an antagonist to all of the heroes, because we've established that that Thunderbolt Ross isn't a fan of superheroes.
Yeah.
So yeah, man. I'm excited to watch Jonathan Majors' Kang. There's a lot here that I am worried about going forward, but I think maybe they do start focusing a lot more on Bucky Barnes' character, having more of Sebastian Stan out there, because he has expressed that interest that he's fine with going forward with the character, you know. And I think it all depends on how good Captain America 4 does, you know.
True.
If it's not well received, which I mean, it could be a bad movie, or it just could not stick the landing, pun intended. I just don't think, like, you know, they would go forward with Sam Wilson being Cap. You know, they may make a change if they decide to do that, but it's good that we are kind of shifting out of that, and we're going to test the waters hopefully in a year or two with Fantastic Four and see how that goes. I really can't wait to see who they cast, man.
Yeah.
Doctor Doom is going to be a pivotal part of casting, because that's a 10-year casting role right there.
And speaking of cosmic, it means we eventually are going to get Galactus.
We have to get Galactus. We have to get Silver. We're going to have Silver Surfer if we get Galactus.
Yeah, at some point, right?
So yeah,
I actually almost imagine that'll be, if they do continue the Guardians mythos, Surfer will be in a Guardians movie, not a Fantastic Four movie, at least initially.
Okay.
It depends on what they do with Fantastic Four, though. Do they leave them space set or do they leave them Earth set? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know if another alien coming to Earth heralding destruction makes sense in this universe.
Especially when we have the Eternals that have been floating around. I mean, the Celestials floating around.
Exactly.
Too.
You got a lot more stories that are going to go to space next.
Yep.
So I could see a retooled Guardians cast, like maybe Adam Warlock, maybe, you know, throw in X character, right? Maybe a returning cast, maybe not. Maybe it's all new cast. And go from there. And have Surfer like be an antagonist in that movie or something.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a He doesn't have to be a Fantastic Four villain. Just needs to be in the universe, though, in
I
some
will
way.
say this. I am starting to feel a little bit of the MCU fatigue. I think Love and Thunder really took a lot out of me. It
Yeah,
really
I think
did.
that one laying the egg that it did in terms of, man, again, Ragnarok, for all its faults in terms of, it had a lot of comedy stuff. It
Yeah.
let the character sit. The fact that he basically watched his dad let himself die. Had to come to terms with the fact that his entire life's been a lie. That he had a sister, that he wasn't the firstborn, that, his dad was this bloodthirsty monster
Yep.
that ruled over the nine realms and then had a face turn and became a good guy when his son was born. Like, you felt that that was something the character was dealing with and like wrestling with who he was to be as a king, right? And you felt that, and then they turn around and number one in Endgame they kind of shit all over that growth, and then or which again made some sense with what happened in Infinity War, but then in Ragnarok it's just they decided to turn the himbo up to 12,
Yep.
which is like that's not what the character needs, guys. That's just not what you need. You just wasted Chris Hemsworth.
Yeah, and I think the way they presented the gods really kind of ruined that for me. Like when we got to Black Panther, I think at that point we're like, okay, but each section of these hero realms of heroes have these gods that they look up to, but then we've seen them basically just be assholes in Love and Thunder. So it's like, I think at this point I will. Wakanda Forever was a good film. Don't get me wrong; it was a really good film given the circumstances. But I will say I am starting to feel the fatigue a little bit, and I think we need a little bit of a fresher take. And if they do a Fantastic Four, it doesn't have to be too hokey, you know?
Yeah.
The casting's critical for that. We're gonna get a Spider-Man 4. They're in pre-production. They're in pre-talks now. Obviously, that one is always comical because that's how they stylized it in cinema with Spider-Man. So we do if we have an opportunity for a serious MCU movie or a show, what maybe it's Secret Invasion? I don't know.
That would be my guess in terms of like actually having some intrigue and emotion, like actual like
Yeah,
suspense. Like Hawkeye had that a little bit, and but again that was on the show side, right?
yeah.
Like on the core movie going side, it's been more miss than hit for me of late.
Falcon and Winter Soldier had that feel, but like I
Again, that
think we
one gets
both
an
said,
asterisk because they had to
yeah,
cut out an entire subplot
layers. Yep.
and edit
No.
all around it, which ruined the flow of everything else. So like, how much can you judge?
Yeah.
Because we don't know what the final product was intended to be. And a last minute edict from on high said, no, it can't be that. Fix it. So like, I don't know. Had good moments though, like Sam getting the shield back and, his like the training stuff, getting the suit. Everything with Bucky was great. Like, had some really fun moments. I really liked what they did with John Walker too. It was
Yeah.
just kind of edited to death with the villain.
But it had a bit of a more serious
Yeah,
tone to it. But like you said, it was of all of the recent stuff since Endgame, it was as close to not being as lighthearted, but at the same time, it was missing something, and it was obvious because it was missing something that they obviously took out. So, man, I don't know what the approach would be with Thunderbolts. I really don't know if you take it serious or not. Obviously, with Scarlet, with Black Widow,
she's going to
it
be the
was,
one comic relief character. Plus Bucky as the
you
straight
know,
man,
yeah, yeah,
as the I'm done. I don't give a fuck character.
yeah.
And I would say Harbor's character too. Those two are going to be the funny characters. Everyone else is going to be on the more serious side in terms of playing things straight. Probably,
Yeah.
at least based on
Well,
what I see of the cast in my head.
Well, let's just hope it's a good movie, man. I really want it to be a good movie because I like I said, I love the Kang character. I enjoyed the first Ant-Man. The second
The
one,
first
not so
one,
much.
first one was quite good.
Yeah,
Had some
yeah,
great like like my days of breaking into stealing shit are done. Scott,
yep.
I need you to break into
Need
a
to break
place and
in,
steal some shit.
steal some shit.
Like, fuck yeah,
Yeah.
Michael Douglas is awesome.
Well, and then the final heist at
Yeah, with
the
it was never just a heist, and then
yep.
great. That
Yeah.
was a really solid
Um,
final sequence.
Yeah, I just I'm a little worried, but at least we have the character going forward. Maybe Loki will be a little more serious when it
Yeah, I
comes
would
up
say
season 2 comes
Loki.
out.
Loki hit the vibe for me in terms of it had that kind of melancholy. I don't want to say bitterness, but like it
Yeah.
left that kind of like sadness kind of feel with, especially because
Yeah.
they have a lot of strings in the score and stuff. So like
Yep.
that adds to the vibe. But Loki had that vibe that Ragnarok was hinting at with Thor in terms of, like the character dealing with that kind of trauma. It didn't quite hit the landing because the whole, hey, we're gonna have Jonathan Majors talk for 10 minutes straight,
Yeah.
like was a weird turn for the finale. But I'm hopeful season 2 rights the ship there and we get a really good season out of that. When does that premiere, by the way? That's this year, right?
It's this year they haven't said anything yet.
My guess is it's
We
like the July show.
I think man, we're in a very weird space where we're no longer given like 3 or 4 months notice because like, yesterday it was announced Ted Lasso's coming out March 15th, a
Yeah,
month from
in
now,
in 4 weeks.
in 4 weeks. I mean, like it's just like we've been waiting on it. They're like, oh yeah, here you go. It's in 4 weeks. So we're no longer getting like a 4 or 5 month, 6 month notice on a lot of this stuff, TVs and films. So it's because, and unfortunately, there's such. I don't know about like Ted Lasso's reasoning, but like for MCU purposes, is they don't want to spoil things within the
True.
whole universe, right? So, but excited about Ted Lasso, by the way. But yeah, man, it's supposed to come out later this year. I don't know if we're gonna get Moon Knight to season 2 this year or not. I
No,
doubt it.
that's
So,
a next year thing for sure.
so what MCU shows are we getting? We're getting Loki, obviously. We're getting Secret Invasion. Is that it?
I think maybe.
Echo has been pushed back to early next year.
Let me Google this.
Because Echo has been filmed because they're starting production of Daredevil right now. They're in pre-production of Daredevil Born Again. So,
New season of What If?
okay. Wasn't wowed by that animated show.
Yeah, Secret Invasion. Marvels, Loki's Summer, Echo is apparently still listed.
Okay, Echo's still listed. All right, I thought that got pushed back to early next year.
Is the
But it
Ironheart
makes
series still coming out?
Yes, it still is, but I haven't heard anything about. I never heard when it was shot, if it was shot yet or not. I know Armor Wars is a movie now. It's not no longer a show. So Armor Wars will be a movie, and apparently Armor Wars is leading us directly into the Thunderbolts film.
Yeah, I could. That one makes sense.
Yeah. So, I mean, it doesn't sound like there's a huge slate of TV shows. So we got three. We got Echo if it comes out, and it makes sense to get Echo in this year because Daredevil Born Again airs next year. It's 18 episodes. It's going to be a
It's gonna be a
huge
big
like.
one.
So it doesn't make sense to like start the year with Charlie Cox, who's going to be a big part of
Oh,
Echo, and then
X-Men 97 comes out this year,
X-Men 97.
and the Agatha Coven of Chaos.
Ah, there it is. That's the one I'm missing, Agatha. Okay. But I think that one's going to be a very isolated TV show, not so much connected to the MCU.
Apparently, Craven's coming out this year.
Yep, Craven's coming out this
I
year.
didn't even know they got done filming that.
Yeah, Madam Web got pushed back to 2024.
Damn, I'm
even though
behind
it's
the
wrapped.
times on Marvel.
Yeah. Yep.
All right.
So okay, so then we're getting Agatha. Like I said, I think Agatha's going to be kind of an insulated show, not attached much outside of like just maybe the Scarlet Witch shows up in it.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, I think that's what we should probably wrap it up here.
Yeah, let's wrap it up, man.
So thanks everyone for hanging for episode 60. We'll be back probably early next week, maybe this weekend, for talking about Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. That'll probably be a shorter one because it's just going to be a single topic show.
You said shorter. I get it. Shorter.
I didn't mean it as a pun, but it works. It'll just be a more brief episode, let's say. And then the week after that, Mandalorian's back.
Oh, man.
So we'll be talking about the Mandalorian season 3. I'm curious how they're gonna, how long, over under, how long do you think the recap is to show everyone? Hey, remember you should go watch one episode of Book of Boba Fett. But if you didn't, here's what happens. I'm thinking 10 minutes.
Yeah, I think we're gonna get a big chunk of that.
Yeah, it's gonna be a 10 minutes, just so you're not surprised why Grogu's back.
Because there are people that did not watch Book of Boba Fett.
That's such a weird decision. That's gonna be wild. I can't wait to talk about how they handle that. But
Why not just should have made that a Mandalorian Christmas special, man?
that would have been great. A single one-off
Yeah.
episode. But
Yeah.
that's where we leave you. Thanks everyone for hanging. We'll be back, like I said, this weekend. Stay tuned. I'm going to continue our stream because we are live over at twitch.tv/MrWartburg. I'm going to probably play some more Horizon Forbidden West tonight before I log off to edit this. I'll probably post it tomorrow at some point. Plus, next week, well, do we want to do it after Last of Us Episode 6?
I think so. We'll
Okay.
have plenty to talk about. We have Quantum Mania, and we'll have episode 6 to talk about.
Sounds like a plan. Sounds like a plan. That'll be episode 61. See you, everyone. Bye.
Goodbye.